President of the Communications Satellite Corporation, speaking to you by satellite from Washington, D.C. It is a real pleasure for me to participate in the inaugural of your new television series, A Space Trip Through the United States, 1967, to be shown in the Scandinavian countries during the coming weeks. It is a real pleasure for me to talk to you by satellite, and I hope that the quality of the communications is an indication of the great faith and enthusiasm that we have for this exciting new medium.
What a day! Welcome to this exciting day that we have all been waiting for so long. My name is Eirik Norman Hansen and I'm going to be your host through the coverage of the launch of Space Norway's ASBM satellites from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California, making an important day in Norwegian space history. And just think about that for a second. You know, we are living in very, very fascinating times. Never before have we had so many opportunities as we do right now because of the technological and scientific advancements. We have huge challenges and it's our responsibility to make sure that we're doing the right thing, making the right choices, using the right technology to achieve the goals that we need to achieve. And we need to be in control, but that's very hard, you know, when things are moving so fast as they are. We all heard about the exponential development. That's the pace of the technological development. And we humans, we are quite strange. We are quite simple beings. We like to kind of do things and understand things that are understandable for us. And linear development is the way we've always been thinking. And just imagine the difference between linear thinking and exponential thinking is enormous. And you know, if I were to take 30 steps right towards you, and each step is 1 meter. 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 for 30 times, I will end up go 30 meters. If I could take exponential steps, that would be really, really cool. And the first step is 1 meter, the other is 2, the second would be 4, and then it doubles every time for 30 times, and then I'll end up go 26 times around the globe instead. And that's the pace of the technological advancement, meaning that we are now able to achieve and solve problems that we do not have the technology for because we're going to invent it anyways. And we are already doing amazing stuff because of all these brilliant technologies. For instance, we can now see that in the investments in smart infrastructure, making it able for us to create a smarter world around us, being more sustainable in the future, is increasing rapidly. People, when you ask people, 80% of ordinary people say that they now feel there is a difference between digital and physical world anymore. Everything has just become digital. And World Economic Forum, they launched a report last year showing that 65% of all 6-year-olds, 65% of all the kids starting at school this autumn are going to start in jobs that are not invented yet. Just imagine that. If you have a little kid back home and ask, you know, what are you going to be when you grow up? And they say, I don't know. They're probably right. And this is the world we are preparing for, and we are doing amazing stuff. Now we can use AR and VR with haptic suits and stuff like I'm wearing here to actually experience the world around us. We can do training programs preparing for a future that doesn't exist in a digital world already with advanced technology and communications. The most advanced bionic hand is about to be developed using AI, sensors and robotics and advanced communications to make people who have lost arms or miss a limb to be able to function as ordinary humans. Doctors are using AR, 3D scanning, advanced communications to make scans of your heart, for instance, preparing for operations. They can even remote control a surgical robot by advanced communication through the technology we have today. There's a Norwegian company building robots, cleaning up the oceans, collecting litter and plastic before it disappears into the ocean. They are also collecting data and sending that back to do research to figure out how we can make sure that our oceans are being cleaned again. And this is the most amazing example I know about. Anne, the woman here, she had a stroke a couple of years ago, lost the ability to speak. And now with sensors connected to a speaking sensor in her brain, using cameras to see the mimic that she makes when she tries to talk, they can actually now decipher that and understand what she is saying. And they're actually using, at the end of a bunch of different technologies, some kind of generative AI language model to be able to give her voice back, which is just amazing. And these are the opportunities that we have. So now we're moving into a world that will be much more connected than it used to be. And this gives us enormous opportunities that we didn't have before. But we also need to remember that it has never, ever been so important to be a human being as right now, because we are the ones making the choices. So remember that we have tremendous opportunities now that we had never had before. We have huge challenges. And we need to be responsible to make sure that we do the right things to create a better future for us all. And the main and really core function in all of this is communications. And that's the reason we are here today, to make sure that we get even more connected than we have been before. So welcome to the launch of Space Norway's ASBM's satellites. And to join me today to host this program and to be my expert and super space and satellite enthusiast, a warm welcome to you, Head of SATCOM Division in Space Norway, Peter Olsen.
Hi, Eric.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
That's good to hear. Yeah, how are you feeling today?
I mean, it's an historic day. We have been waiting for so long. So, I mean, I'm all fired up, really, full of expectation. But frankly, also a little bit nervous. So, I mean, it's a big day. It's so much at stake. But I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, but very, very shortly, why is this project so important for us?
I mean, for the Arctic region, and basically an unconnected place on Earth, this will change. So this is about to change. So we will bring connectivity to the high north, to the Arctic region. Tremendous important for the users there, in a boat, in a ship, if it's civilian, if it's government. It's a game changer. It means a lot.
Yeah, and in fact, it's so important that we have a greeting from the European Commission. So take a look at this.
Today we are here to celebrate another step in the EU space program and another example of great cooperation between the EU and Norway on the Arctic Satellite Broadband mission, also known as ASBM. And it's now becoming a reality. In 2016, Norway proposed a cooperation with the European GNSS program on ASBM. And this partnership has flourished, demonstrating the close cooperation between Norway and the European Union in the realm of space. A space radiation monitoring unit has been included in this mission, underscoring the EU's commitment to leveraging space technology for strategic and scientific purposes. The data collected from these satellites will benefit various components of the EU space program, such as Galileo, EGNOS, SST, or IRIS². And today, with the gathering of crucial space radiation data covering altitudes between 6,000 and 45,000 kilometers, this mission is really a statement to the power of international space cooperation and a significant milestone in our collective partnership and in our advancement of knowledge and technology. Congratulations to everyone involved in this groundbreaking mission, and I look forward to our continued partnership in space.
Thank you, Mr. Kautz from the European Commission. Not bad that the European Commission is, sending a greeting for this. It says something about the magnitude of this project, right?
Indeed. So European Commission is not the only partner. We have the US Space Force, we have the Norwegian MOD, and we have VSAT as a big commercial operator as well. So this is really gathering important stakeholders.
Yeah, indeed. Because now we will soon kind of connect over or move over to SpaceX and their coverage of the launch. But what can we expect to see now going forward through the launching process?
Well, it's become a standard process. I mean, SpaceX has revolutionized this thing. They are you know, they make launching look easy. It's like operating a plane, more or less. So, I mean, they do this a lot, a very high launch cadence. So, yeah, we can expect to see when we enter the web stream, the launcher will be fueled, basically, and the countdown will be going on. Lots of events happen there, but we will get close. We will dive more into that, and SpaceX commentary will lead us through as well.
Yeah, because this is a very, you know, even though, as you said, it looks like something that everyone can do, but this is a pretty complex operation. Towards where we are today, the Falcon is there on the launch pad, but before this, there's a lot of preparations and a lot of things going on before we can enter that stage, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. So, I mean, this ASBM program has been going on for years. So, I mean, there's so much expectation. We're so pleased to be here today. And, I mean, basically, the build process of the satellite has taken years, thoroughly tested, due diligence in every aspect, from the nuts and bolts up to the subsystems and the entire satellite. So, everything that you can imagine to sort of verify and test has been done, and now we're ready. Yeah. And we have chosen the most reliable launch service there is. So we are keenly awaiting the next steps.
Yeah,
I can't wait.
Yeah, no, and I can feel the pulse myself. But yeah, no, they are doing this almost not weekly, maybe, but it's not far from it.
Well, actually, it's several times per week. It's the normal launch cadence these days of SpaceX, which is pretty remarkable if you compare with the rest of the industry. So that's...
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this because, I mean, being part of a space launch is nothing that I do very often, but I've seen it before. I can feel the pulse. Yeah, yeah, you too.
Yeah,
all
indeed.
well.
Yes.
Yeah. We need to take care of one another. We are going to be here in the studio and comment on what's going on as we proceed, but now it's time for us to move over to where the action is, and to Vandenberg Space Force Base in California and the SpaceX broadcast. And we will be back here afterwards, after we have seen what's going on over there. So take a look at this.
Hello everyone, it is Sunday, August 11th, and you're looking at a live view of our Falcon 9 rocket, awaiting a 7:02 p.m. Pacific time launch from Space Launch Complex 4 East in Vandenberg, California. Today's launch marks SpaceX's 76th mission of 2024 and 360th overall Falcon 9 mission to date. My name is Ronnie Foreman, and I'm a commercial sales manager here at SpaceX, joining you from Hawthorne, California, for our live launch coverage of the Arctic Satellite Broadband mission, also known as ASBM, led by Space Norway. With just 13 minutes and 43 seconds to launch, let's dive right in. On board Falcon 9 today are two Northrop Grumman-built satellites, ASBM-1 and ASBM-2. These satellites will deliver continuous commercial and military broadband capacity to the Arctic region above the 65-degree north latitude. Today's mission is particularly exciting for SpaceX because this is the first time we will be launching to the highly elliptical Molniya orbit. In this orbit, the apogee, or the furthest point from Earth, is about 40,000 kilometers away, and the perigee, or the closest point, can be as close as 600 kilometers. The orbit is also positioned around the Earth by fine-tuning the inclination and argument of perigee, so that the apogee is as far north as possible. Now, the closer a satellite is to the Earth during its orbit, the faster it's moving. So that really high apogee allows vehicles in this orbit to spend a significant amount of time over the high latitudes of the Northern Hemisphere, making passes about every 12 hours, or twice per day. Then, with a perigee of just 600 kilometers, the satellite is moving much, much faster, and it zips across the Southern Hemisphere before popping back up to the northern side. That careful balance of timing and orbital positioning means that in the Molniya orbit, just two satellites are able to provide around-the-clock coverage of these northern latitudes. We have a great illustration of that orbit coming up, so with that, let's learn a little bit more about today's payload and mission.
The Arctic, a landscape of thousands of miles of floating ice, extreme temperatures, and magisterial beauty that has remained untouched for most of human history. We only reached the North Pole in 1904. A blink of an eye in the planet's lifetime, the world is changing fast, and so must we. The Arctic is growing in importance as governments, organizations, and scientists embark on vital missions. Airlines, shipping companies, and military vessels and aircraft are increasingly looking to northerly routes. In many cases, polar paths are more direct and save on fuel. And as the world changes, governments too are looking north to support further Arctic research, better understand the impacts of climate change, and be prepared for the future, whatever it brings. Connectivity holds the key to unlocking it all.
The need for high-speed coverage in the Arctic has been a priority for the Norwegian government for a long time. As far back as in 2006, the Norwegian government stated that the Arctic is Norway's most important focus area. We worked with several potential partners for a long time, but it became apparent to us that no single government or commercial company would be able to shoulder an investment like this by itself. The first piece of the puzzle came into place when a representative from the US Air Force approached me during a conference in the US and asked if there was room for a US military payload on board the ASBM satellites. After that, VSAT and the Norwegian Armed Forces were able to commit to the program.
The evolving operational environment drove an increased capability needed in the Arctic region. And now that the Arctic is more accessible, maintaining peace in the Arctic region is of the utmost importance. The partnership with Space Norway was explored because it addresses integrated deterrence and building relationships with our international partners and allies. With the growing strategic need for the North Polar region, we provide a more resilient capability. We provide 2 times polar SATCOM, and we've delivered this program faster and with significant cost savings.
So Northrop Grumman is the prime contractor responsible for the satellite vehicle, the communications payloads, EPSR payload, as well as the EPS CAPS ground system. So we are providing the end-to-end capability that is the ASBM. In June, Northrop Grumman built 2 satellite constellations for Space Norway's Arctic satellite broadband mission, departed from our manufacturing facility in Dulles, Virginia. This was a sector effort as we provided all 3 major components to bring commercial broadband and protected military satellite communications to the Arctic. We proudly designed, integrated, and tested the ASBM space vehicles, which includes 2 flight-proven GeoStar 3 platforms and X-band and Ka-band payloads. We also provided a pair of EPSR payloads and the EPSR CAPS ground system for this mission.
With the launch today of the ASBM satellites embarking ViaSat's GX10 payloads, we take an important step in providing broadband connectivity into the Arctic region. The GX10 payloads represent an important step in ViaSat's evolutional network, providing broadband connectivity for mobility users no matter wherever you are, whether it's aviation, maritime, governments or scientists working in the region. Together through collaboration and teamwork, we're providing connectivity in the Arctic region that's been unavailable in the past, and this is a vital part in the evolution of ViaSat's networks.
The ASBM program is a groundbreaking effort in an allied, governmental and commercial collaboration, both in a cost-efficient manner as well as showing how governmental and commercial needs can be met. We're already looking into new Arctic projects where we hope to bring in more of our allies, and we're looking forward to providing the first dedicated broadband services to users in the real Arctic.
The Falcon 9 on your screen is a 2-stage rocket developed and manufactured by SpaceX, known for its safe, reliable, and cost-effective access to space. It is the most flown U.S. launch vehicle ever, and also the first and currently the only orbital-class rocket capable of reflight. Now, starting at the top of the vehicle, which you can barely see through the fog there on your screen, we've got our carbon composite payload fairing, a protective shell that encapsulates the payload being sent to space. Just to provide a sense of scale here, the payload fairing that you can, again, just barely see on your screen is about 17 feet in diameter. It has enough room inside to hold an average-sized fire truck. The fairing is made up of two halves that will separate and jettison away from the vehicle once Falcon 9 reaches space. Today's payloads are, of course, the ASBM satellites, which were manufactured by Northrop Grumman. Continuing down the vehicle, we have our second stage. The second stage is powered by a single Merlin vacuum engine, or MVAC for short. After stage separation, the MVAC engine will ignite and carry the payloads to its final orbit. The Falcon 9's first and second stages are connected by the black interstage, which houses the MVAC engine's skirt and the system that decouples the two stages during stage separation. Below the first stage, which is powered by 9 Merlin engines, that provides the initial thrust to lift Falcon 9 off the ground and move the vehicle through the lower, thicker parts of the atmosphere. Each of these Merlin 1D engines delivers about 190,000 pounds of thrust at sea level, which gives Falcon 9 a combined 1.7 million pounds of thrust at liftoff. After stage separation, stage 1, which is also called the booster, will return to Earth using a combination of those Merlin sea-level engines and 4 titanium grid fins located at the top of the booster, which will guide it during its re-entry. The Falcon 9 first stage is also equipped with 4 landing legs that deploy just before landing to allow for vertical touchdown on either a landing pad or drone ship. For today's mission, we will be attempting to land this booster on our drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, which is currently stationed on the Pacific Ocean. This mission marks this booster's 22nd launch and landing, having previously flown Crew 1 and 2, Sirius XM-8, CRS-23,
for strongback retract.
IXB, Transporter 4 and 5, Global Star FM-15, ISI Aero C3, Korea 425, Maxar 1, and 10 Starlink missions. I'm not going to lie, that is one heck of a resume. And of course, prior to the start of our webcast today, the Falcon 9 team performed functional checkouts for both the ASBM payloads and the launch vehicle. At T-minus 38 minutes, the team concluded their go.
Strongback retract has started.
There's confirmation that the strongback is beginning to pull away from the vehicle. And of course, at this point in our launch lead up, the pre-valves between the first stage and the second stage are open. At the T-minus 7 minute mark, engine chill began to prepare the Merlin engines for flight. The first stage is connected to a launch mount at the base of the transporter erector, or TE, which is that truss structure you can see next to Falcon 9. We heard the nets call out that we are preparing for retraction here in just a couple of minutes. Just barely through the fog, you can see there that the strongback pulled away from the rocket by about 2 degrees. Now at T-minus 0, the ground hydraulic systems will pull the TE all the way back from 2 degrees to 45 degrees away from Falcon 9, so that it can have sufficient clearance to move away from the launch pad. At this point in the countdown, both the first and second stages are nearly fully loaded with 1 million pounds of rocket-grade kerosene fuel and liquid oxygen. Both stages will finish propellant loading about a minute apart from each other, so we're listening in now for those call-outs from mission control.
Stage 1 LOX load complete.
There's confirmation that we have finished loading liquid oxygen on board the first stage, and again, we are standing by for the same call-out for stage 2 in just about 50 seconds. You can, of course, always keep an eye on our mission countdown right in the middle at the bottom of your screen. That periodic venting sound you hear is normal. At this point in the countdown, we are venting chilled gas from above the LOX tank to maintain constant pressure in the tank as needed. Typically, for a launch, you'd be able to see that liquid oxygen condensing into clouds around the vehicle, but today, the best indication we have is that audio feedback coming from the launch pad. We are standing by for that LOX call out on board stage 2. At which point Falcon 9 will be fully loaded with 1 million...
Stage 2, LOX load is complete.
There's that confirmation that we have 1 million pounds of fuel on board Falcon 9. Now the next call out we're listening for is at T-minus 60 seconds that Falcon 9 has entered startup mode. That of course will mean that the rocket's autonomous internal flight computers have taken over the launch countdown. Then just inside of T-minus 2 seconds, we will light the M1D engines for liftoff. At this time, the ASBM payload continues to be healthy, and the Falcon 9 team is tracking no issues on the rocket. The range is green, and weather continues to look good, albeit a bit foggy.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
Confirmation that Falcon is in startup.
LD is go for launch.
And there you heard that our launch director has given the final go for today's mission. So at T-minus 37 seconds and counting, all systems are ready for the launch of Falcon 9. Let's sit back and watch as the Falcon rocket takes the ASBM mission to space.
T-minus 15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. And liftoff of Falcon 9. Go ASBM. Vehicle pitching downrange. Chamber pressure is nominal.
That incredible view, of course, means that at T-plus 33 seconds and counting, Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Space Launch Complex 4 East, carrying the 2 ASBM satellites. Now, after clearing the tower, as you can see a little bit on your screen
Power and
here,
telemetry are nominal.
there's good confirmations that our power and telemetry on board Falcon 9 are looking good. At this point, we're gimbaling the engines on the booster to initiate a slight roll maneuver.
Vehicle supersonic.
Call out there that Falcon 9 is moving faster than the speed of sound.
Max Q.
And there's confirmation that we have passed through the period of maximum aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle. As Falcon 9 accelerates through the thicker, lower atmosphere, the air density decreases, but we're picking up speed as we head to space, which means we're shifting the pressure balance on the rocket as we ascend. When Falcon 9 passes through max Q, the point of maximum aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle, the air density has now lowered faster than the increasing speed of the vehicle. Great views there as Falcon 9 continues on its way to space. Now, coming up shortly, we'll have 3 events in quick succession, and we should hear all of these called out by Mission Control, starting with MECO, followed by stage separation, and then SES-1. Main engine cutoff, or MECO for short, will shut down all 9 M1D engines on the first stage to slow the vehicle down in preparation for stage separation, which is when the first and second stages of Falcon 9 separate from one another. After stage 1 shuts down its engines and separates from the second stage, the booster will begin to make its way back to land. And the second engine will undertake SES-1, or Second Engine Start 1, where we light the MVAC engine on the second stage for the first time. Let's keep an eye out for all of these events happening in just about 5 seconds.
MECO. Stage separation confirmed. Impact startup.
Awesome views and confirmation that we have had main engine cutoff, stage separation, and of course, second engine start 1. So the next major call out we're looking for is fairing separation. Right now, the fairing is protecting the ASBM payloads from the environments on ascent. But once we reach the vacuum of space, they are no longer needed. So at that point, the halves separate and are jettisoned away.
Fairing separation confirmed.
Great confirmation and views of fairing separation on your screen there. We will, of course, be attempting to retrieve those fairing halves once they fall back to Earth with our recovery vessel Go Beyond, which is also currently standing by in the Pacific Ocean. Coming up here in just a little bit more than 2 minutes, we are anticipating entry burn, which should last about 20 seconds for our first stage booster. But right now, of course, on your screen at T plus 4 minutes and 3 seconds into this launch, you have great views of your MVAC engine on the right-hand side of the screen, taking the ASBM satellites to their intended orbit. The next major milestone we're tracking for the first stage is the entry burn, which should begin at T plus 6 minutes and 22 seconds. To start the entry burn, we will relight 3 of the M1D engines on board the first stage, which is essentially similar to pumping the brakes to slow down the vehicle as it passes back into the Earth's atmosphere. That entry burn will help to reduce the heat generated from the friction of the atmosphere and reduces aerodynamic.
Nominal trajectories.
Good confirmation there that both the first and second stages are on nominal trajectories. So as you can see on your screen at this point in the flight, the second stage is still picking up speed and heading to orbit. On the left-hand side of your screen, you have a great view down the side of Falcon 9 and 2 of those titanium grid fins just atop the booster preparing for landing. Again, the Falcon 9 first stage supporting today's mission is performing this entry approach for the 22nd time. MVAC continuing to pick up speed and altitude in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. The engines on board the first and second stage are actually quite similar, but the Merlins on the first stage are optimized for sea level. These achieve 190,000 pounds of thrust each during both ascent and descent. The MVAC engine, by contrast, has a much wider nozzle, which you can see on the right-hand side of your screen right now, and is optimized to 220,500 pounds of thrust in the vacuum of space. One of the next major milestones we're tracking here is going...
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
There's confirmation that we have entry burn startup on board our first stage on the left-hand side of your screen.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
There's confirmation of entry burn shutdown on the first stage, and with that we should have just about a minute until we hear SECO 1, or second engine cutoff 1, for the MVAC engine on board the second stage. Shortly after that, we'll hear the call out for the landing burn, which is the final burn of the Falcon 9 booster.
Stage 1 FTS is saved.
Good callouts from Mission Control as first stage continues back toward Earth.
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
Good callouts from
Stage 1 transonic.
From Mission Control, and with that last one, we know that Falcon 9 continues on its way back to Earth. Great views of those grid fins steering through the atmosphere as well. As a reminder, we are attempting to land this booster today on our drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, which is currently stationed in the Pacific Ocean.
Stage 1 landing burn.
There's confirmation that landing burn has begun, and we are expecting this burn to last for about 20 seconds in total.
Nominal orbit insertion.
Landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
That was a beautiful touchdown of our Falcon 9 rocket. And of course, in the midst of all that, we also heard confirmation of second engine cutoff and nominal orbital insertion from mission control. Great views of embark up there in space with our 2 ASBM satellites on board. And as a reminder, this was our 22nd launch and landing for the first stage we flew today, marking SpaceX's 318th recovery of an orbital class rocket, including the first stage landings for both Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy. Now we are going to enter roughly a 28-minute coast phase, and then we'll be back for second engine start 2, or SES2, of the MVAC engine on board the second stage at about the T plus 36-minute mark. So for now, kick back and enjoy some space tunes. We'll see you back here for SES2.
Wow, and now we're on our way. Congratulations.
Thank you. So far, so good.
Yeah, so far, so good. And now the Falcon is traveling into space, finding the right orbits. How long is this journey? How long, how long does it take? How long is it?
There are 2 satellites, obviously. So the last one will be separated from the launch vehicle 47 minutes and 40 seconds or so after liftoff. So that's, yeah.
Yeah, but do you know how long the journey is how far?
I do not know how far it has traveled, but on that challenge, it's going to happen south of Madagascar on the globe, and it's going to be, let's see here, it's going to be some 350 kilometers above the surface of the Earth. So that's a long travel, basically, in a short time.
Yeah. So now we're on our way, but now we are going through different stages, and then we are going to comment on them, but we're also going to dwell a little bit about what's going on. So while we are waiting for our satellites to get into orbit, let's go back in time and talk a little bit about how and why we are here today. And first, take a look at this.
The Arctic, a vast area and a top priority for the Norwegian government, unconnected until now.
We are situated far north. We've got very challenging topography in the country. We've got large ocean areas, and we have the Arctic island of Svalbard with human activity on it.
Well, it's always been clear that there's never been actually a good broadband data coverage to the areas around the North Pole. And that is because of the geostationary satellites. They are standing straight over the equator and they never reach up there. So there's always been a high need for getting this communication. And because Norway do have a responsibility in particular for search and rescue and also for national reasons, the need for communications in the Arctic, it has been a vital element for Norway to actually get this communication established.
Both for the maritime activities, it will be important to have coverage. Search and rescue, it's very important for safe operations for people doing research in the polar region, certainly, and also for aircraft crossing through the Arctic.
Yeah, the problem with communications in the Arctic is not for Norway alone. It's actually for all nations which is surrounding the Arctic area.
Oppdraget vårt var å skaffe bredbånd til kommersielle brukere i norske interesseområder. Det viser seg veldig raskt at hvis du bare konsentrerer deg om norske interesseområder, så det området alt for lite, så vi måtte utvide til å se på hele Arktis. Denne nyttelasten som vi har laget sammen med Inmarsat, den skal sørge for å levere bredbånd til skip og fly, og den vil ha dekning i hele Arktis nord for 75 grader.
All options were investigated. The conclusion: build 2 satellites for a highly elliptical orbit.
Dette må jo sies å være drømmeoppgaven for enhver ingeniør, fordi noen har et behov, og så vet man enda ikke hvordan man skal løse dette teknisk. Og så får man frie tøyler egentlig til å prøve alle mulige varianter, og det var akkurat det vi gjorde. Vi fikk oppgaven med å skaffe kommunikasjon i nordområdene som ikke har kommunikasjon i dag, og siden min bakgrunn fra satellitt, så satellitt det opplagte valget, men vi ble tvunget til å gjøre vurderinger på alle andre mulige tekniske løsninger også, men vi kom tilbake til satellitt med en gang. Et kommunikasjonssystem krever at du til enhver tid kan se en satellitt 24 timer i døgnet. Så det satellittsystemet som vi falt ned på, det var egentlig en modifisert geostasjonær type satellitt, men vi måtte gjøre banen mer, vi klemte banen sammen for å gjøre den litt mer elliptisk, og så vippet vi den opp på siden, og på den måten så vil satellitten ha en litt forskjellig hastighet rundt i selve banen, og vi kan da gjøre det sånn at satellitten hviler lenger over nordområdene, og bruker veldig lang tid over den nordlige halvkule, og veldig kort tid på den sørlige halvkule. Og på den måten så skaffer vi et system hvor brukeren alltid ser en satellitt, og hvor du i opp til 2 til 3 timer hver eneste omløp ser begge satellittene samtidig. Og på den måten så sørger vi for at brukerne kan bytte fra satellitt til satellitt i et sånt tempo at de aldri mister koblingen.
Ja, bakkestasjonene har jo en veldig viktig funksjon i det her systemet her, fordi oppe i verdensrommet så svever jo de satellittene, men de må ha et plass å kommunisere ned på bakken, og det skjer via de her bakkestasjonene. Så bakkestasjonene har en veldig, veldig viktig funksjon. Vi har bygd opp en ganske formidabel infrastruktur i Nord-Norge for det her programmet her.
We have some very, very clever guys in the company, which have done a fantastic job. We have a field office with very experienced people. Oddveig Tretterud as head of the field office. We have some Canadian engineers which are very experienced, which is vital in order to ensure that the satellites are developed, designed and built with very high quality. But you need also to find out what are sort of the cyber environment that you're going to enter into, so you need cyber specialists. We're going to have some classified stuff on board. That means that you need security people. You need to negotiate contracts, you need legal people on board, you need financial personnel. The satellites are very expensive. It is high risk to get out in space, so you need to have insurance.
And we're back in. This is so super exciting. But we just heard the project director explaining about many benefits to Norway and users in the Arctic region. And then, can all this be accomplished with just one payload?
In fact, there are 4 payloads on this ASBM mission. So there is one rather classified payload for the US Space Force. It's mounted on one side of the satellite. And then there is a second payload for the Norwegian military MOD, basically, Ministry of Defense, which will serve the needs of the government, basically, in Norway and in the Arctic region and on the seas. The third payload is with the commercial company VSAT to serve aeronautical usage and maritime. And the fourth, should not forget, the fourth payload is a radiation monitor for the European Commission. We saw the greeting from the commissioner, and that's the fourth payload, basically.
Yeah. So, but very sure, a payload. Can you explain what a payload is for a guy like me?
Payload. Well, that's the purpose of what you're doing. Yeah, I mean, if you're on a mission to take pictures of the Earth, you could imagine that the camera is the payload. Here we are on a communication mission, so then the payload is the amplifiers and the filters and everything that enables you communicate from one side of the Earth to the other one.
Yeah. So yeah, and you explained to me before, this is kind of a contextual thing, right? So when the launcher was on the pad, then that was kind of the platform.
Correct. So exactly. So when in the context of the launch, then the two satellites are viewed as the payload, and they are called the payload in that context, indeed.
So we are going to talk much more about what's going on, but let's move on and talk about why this project and its purpose is so important, how to build the right team. So let's take a look at this.
Before embarking on this long journey, a team of top scientists had to be assembled.
First of all, it's important to have a very experienced team because when you build a spacecraft, there are so many engineering disciplines. So we need to have someone who has expertise in the different subsystems, and we need some overlap, but also, have a complete team so that we cover all the different areas.
ASBM is a large program with a high investment frame, and it became apparent that no single government or commercial company would be able to lift an investment like this on their own. Eventually, the US Space Force, the Norwegian Ministry of Defense, and VSAT came on board.
So we understood very, very soon that we had to get more parties on board. We had to establish a cooperation with other satellite operators and with the government in order to make this actually a viable program. Also, a very nice process in the military, Ministry of Defense, where the satellite division or space division, which was headed by Stig Nielsen, was instrumental in getting the Norwegian Ministry of Defense to sign up actually to have then a X-band payload, a military payload on board. They needed that for the Coast Guard, they needed it for forces operating in the north, in northern Norway, in particular in Troms. It is a lot of satellite shadows because of all the mountains and valleys. So they also needed a different system than geostationary satellites to get satellite coverage actually on the Norwegian mainland. And then we were in the US together with the armed forces on a space meeting, and we got the opportunity to talk about the Norwegian plans. And in the break afterwards, and this is a very interesting story, Rachel Morford, a US Air Force employee, came up to me in the break and asked, "Do you have space for another payload on board?" Well, I'm sure we can do that. And then the ball started rolling with the US Space Force.
Our key suppliers, Northrop Grumman and SpaceX, were chosen early on.
It's a matter of fact that SpaceX, since 2016, and that was 3 years before we negotiated the contract with SpaceX, has not had any accidents. So when you are selecting a launch provider for a complicated program like the Arctic Satellite Broadband Mission Program, you want to make sure that you are actually getting your satellites up in space.
The satellites are designed to last at least 15 years in space and have undergone rigorous testing.
Building a satellite of this size is a manual process. The satellite is big. It's 3 by 3 by 4 meters. It has hundreds of thousands of components. All this is put together by hand. So this is a complicated process.
Yeah, like you, a 15 years lifetime is a very long time, especially when you take into account that you can't do any repair on any of the hardware. That means we have very tough requirements for all the hardware that goes into the satellite. So we start with a unit level testing. You know, every unit is exposed to very tough test environments. We test even, first of all, the functionality and performance, but then we also test for the space environment, vacuum, and the launch environment. Then we do basically the same when we have installed each of the subsystems. So again, a repeat of basically similar tests to we did on the unit level. And then again, we repeat that when we get to the system level. So overall, there is a very tough regime that we have to expose all the hardware to.
Satellitten må demonstrere at den kan takle sterk varme og sterk kulde, og vi må sørge for at alle systemer som skal hjelpe til å holde satellitten i riktig temperatur, at de virker som de skal.
We signed all the contracts in 2019, started building the 3 July in 2019, and now we're building satellites for almost 5 years. So this is a long march towards something which is strategically very important. And one of our focuses here has been we need to collaborate, we need to have a good dialogue, we have the common objective. So in order to make this fly, you need to do it on a footing of collaboration and good dialogue.
Welcome back. This is definitely a big and complex project. And then we, in the video, they mentioned that there are 3 partners in addition to Space Norway. Is it normal to have so many partners on a satellite program like this?
I would say no. The geostationary satellites that are sort of comparable tend to be operated by one or procured by one commercial entity in general. Sometimes you find together with another partner, but finding actually Space Norway plus 3 partners plus the European Commission, that's an incredible achievement. So we talked about this concept of a payload, the purpose, but there's also a platform which is serving the purpose. So the key here is that there are tremendous synergies, to use this term, between sharing the platform, because everybody would need roughly the same platform. So that's what's happening here. And I think it's an incredible achievement to manage to squeeze in payloads from so many partners, find a way to share the mass, the power, but also the bill. And I mean, there's money involved. And, having succeeded to bring all these things together at once, one time in history, and get everybody to sign in to join this, I think that's just, that's awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm really proud of that. We managed to do that in Space Norway.
Yeah, and I can see that. And also I think it's interesting that it's not only commercial or only for government use, it's kind of the combination of all 3 of them. That sounds to me like a pretty exclusive thing as well.
Yeah, that's correct, indeed. So there's this concept of dual use being more important perhaps going forward with the geopolitics and everything we see around us.
Yeah. But very, very shortly, how long does it normally take to build a satellite like this one?
Okay, so it's comparable to a geostationary satellite, but a bit more complicated. A geosatellite is built in, say, minimum 2.5 years and stretching up to maybe 4. Here we are in a slightly more complicated HEO system, so it took a bit more time, and we had COVID and everything. So let's say we are talking 3 to 4 years in general.
3 to 4 years on average to create a satellite like this. Very good. Now let's get even further back in time, because this is a complex project. But let's talk a little bit more about the launch of the actual projects. Take a look at this.
Yes.
SpaceX will launch our 2 satellites on a Falcon 9 rocket from Vandenberg Space Force Base, California.
I vårt system så setter vi da satellittene oppå hverandre og skyter begge satellittene opp på samme rakett. Når satellittene slippes fra raketten, en etter en, så vil vi bruke rakettmotorene på satellitten sånn at de skiller lag, sånn at den ene satellitten vil være over nordlige halvkulen og den andre over den sørlige halvkulen.
So that takes, several days. So we have almost 2 weeks with orbit racing before we get into our final orbit. And during that time, we also start testing the bus or the platform, so to speak. So we do all that while we kind of get slowly up into the correct orbit. And when we arrive on station, which this is actually an elliptical orbit, so, we rotate on a 16 hours period. But then we start testing each of the payloads. And that takes, several weeks as well. So from the launch until we actually do the handover and accept the spacecraft in orbit, it takes about 2 months.
Så funksjonen til bakkestasjonen er jo å sørge for sikker og stabil kommunikasjon fra bakken opp til satellittene. Og vi har jo 2 satellitter i drift. Så du kan si når den ene er aktiv eller synlig, så er den andre på andre siden av jorda. Og så roterer de rundt, og så kommer jo da den neste opp og blir synlig. Og alt det her krever jo en slags kunst i koordinering, og nesten en slags koordinert dans da, mellom bakkestasjonen og satellittene for å få det her til å fungere sømløst. Og sømløst er på en måte nøkkelen i det vi skal levere fremover.
So we have 4 payloads then on board, the satellites, actually 3 payloads on one and 4 on the other. And all of them will serve its strategic interest of nations and allies in 15 to 20 years to come.
So welcome back again. I mean, one thing is what is going on right now. We are on kind of the journey, but I noted that it is planned to take 2 months until the satellite is ready for service. How is that period of time spent?
Yeah, so in some minutes from now, or 47 minutes after launch, the satellites, both of them, will be separated from the launcher, and they will start their own life, let's say. So between that point in time and sort of opening for business is planned to take 2 months. So yeah, first there's a lot going on. Basically, we just saw the video, this ellipse. So there are over the first 10 days there are I think it's a total of 7 burns where the satellites use their own small tiny rocket engine and their own fuel to perform maneuvers. So there will be I think 4 or 5 maneuvers to stretch the ellipse to bring the furthest point further away from the Earth. Then there will be some additional burns to lift the other side of the ellipse to bring it a bit higher from the Earth surface. That will take 10 days altogether. Then there are testing going on of the platform. And I forgot actually to mention the very obvious things, to deploy the solar panels, 25 meters from tip to toe, and also the antennas that are crucially needed. And this is not even starting to talk about testing the payloads. So we have 4 payloads here, quite complex. So the remainder of those 2 months will be spent testing the payloads. These are sophisticated payloads, and it's a sophisticated orbit. So that's a busy schedule, let's say.
Busy schedule for the next 2 weeks. Yeah, but and now we're approaching what they call the final burn. Very shortly, what's the final burn?
Well, it's we have been coasting now the launcher, and it's going to burn for less than a minute just to tweak the orbit before separation.
So let's join SpaceX again, and yeah, this is really exciting. So look at this.
Hello and welcome back to our live coverage of the Arctic Satellite Broadband mission. We are back from our first coast phase just in time for second engine start 2. In just about 30 seconds, we'll begin a roughly 40-second burn of the second stage MVAC engine, which you've got a great view of right now on your screen. This will be the second burn of our MVAC tonight. The first burn took place at around the T plus 2 minutes and 45-second mark and lasted for 5.5 minutes. This additional burn will place the ASBM payloads into the desired orbit for payload deployment.
MVAC started.
Confirmation of SES-2. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the MVAC engine shown on your screen has a much wider nozzle than the sea-level M1D engines on board the first stage booster. That's in order to give this engine optimal thrust performance in space. At full power, MVAC is capable of 220,500 pounds of thrust in vacuum. Also, as we mentioned earlier tonight, the ASBM satellites are carrying both military and civilian payloads. The 2 satellites on board Stage 2 are ASBM-1 and ASBM-2. Confirmation of second engine cutoff 2 there from Mission Control.
Nominal orbit insertion.
And confirmation of good orbit insertion for ASBM 1 and 2, which are still currently attached to the second stage. Those two satellites are hosting Viasat's GX-10A and 10B Ka-band payloads, which will extend Viasat's high-speed global network across the Arctic region. In addition to the two Viasat Ka-band payloads, the spacecraft are also hosting payloads for the Norwegian...
And that was the last burn, the final burn, and soon we're going to witness the separation of the first satellite. But before that, let's see what happens when the satellite is in orbit and what can we expect from our two new buddies in the future. Take a look at this.
After launch, our satellites will perform the orbit raise using their own engines, while waking up and deploying the sun arrays in antennas.
On behalf of the team and of Space Norway, I'm very proud that we've been able to bring this project now to up to a launch, and it's really been a fantastic journey, and it's been a fantastic team, and I think they'll be doing great things in the future as well.
We have all a reason to be proud of what we have done. First of all, we are providing communication capabilities to people in the Arctic that never have had that opportunity. The main reason. We have put together a program that has put Norway on the map as the prime Arctic space provider. And there's nobody else that are close to what we have been able to do here. From small resources with a handful of people, everybody that we have worked with is very satisfied for the collaboration and the way we have managed this.
Jeg veldig stolt over det vi har fått til. Dette noe som en kanskje får lov å oppleve en gang i livet. Så jeg ser veldig frem til den milepælen som launch for launch en veldig viktig milepæl. Og så vet vi da at launch på en måte avslutning av noe, og så det begynnelsen på noe helt nytt.
Jeg tror nå så man i en situasjon hvor man så spent, og man har så mye å gjøre, og det mye som skal falle på plass i siste liten. Så nå gleder vi oss veldig. Vi veldig spent. Men jeg tror nok kanskje at først etter en stund så forstår man hvor stort dette egentlig og jeg helt sikker på at jeg kommer til å være veldig stolt og helt sikker på at dette høydepunktet i karrieren. Det helt bombesikkert.
But in a few minutes now, we're going to see the satellites take off from Vandenberg at the US Space Force Base in California. And of course, we're pretty comfortable that the satellites now are tested many times, and that they will work when they get out in space. But that's not something you can't take for granted. There is risk linked to a space program, but let's hope that everything goes as it's planned to go.
Hello and welcome back. We are now just about T+42 minutes into today's mission, and coming up next, we have the deployment of the first ASBM satellite. Now, just a quick recap of today's mission so far. We had an on-time liftoff at 7:02 p.m. Pacific, followed by stage separation about 2.5 minutes after launch. The first stage booster then returned to Earth and successfully landed on the drone ship Of Course I Still Love You, about 8.5 minutes after takeoff. We've also had 2 successful ignitions and shutdowns of our second stage embark engine.
ASBM 1 payload deploy confirmed.
There we have confirmation of ASBM-1. And as a reminder, on board Stage 2 today, we had the ASBM payload, which consisted of 2 Northrop Grumman-built satellites. ASBM-1, which we just heard confirmation of deployment there, and ASBM-2. With that confirmation, we are headed back into another coast, but we'll see you back here in just about 4 minutes for the deploy of ASBM-2.
And that was 1 down, 1 to go. Yeah, this is exciting. Yeah,
Yep.
1 satellite is born.
Yep.
Yeah, waiting for the next one. But before, let's go back to the video clip that we saw. And what can we now expect from ASBM in the future when everything is up and running, everything is good?
Yeah, I think I used the word game changer in the introduction to this transmission, and I want to repeat, it's a game changer. It will change the rules of the game for the Arctic, for communications up there. Currently unserved, now it will be served. It will benefit society greatly. Again, we heard videos talking about search and rescue responsibility of Norway. The sea surfaces where Norway has the responsibility to perform search and rescue are actually 7 times bigger than the land masses of Norway itself. So, I mean, it's an incredible area that will now be served much, much better with communications. And the story goes on for maritime. You can imagine a cruise ship, 3,000 people on board, previously unconnected, now connected. And there will be aeroplanes flying over the polar area, now with coverage, and you can think about the benefits for the defense and security, and so again, it's a game-changing moment.
A game-changing moment now, connecting almost the last spots on the Earth. That's very exciting. And now we're almost there. We have entered the final stage and waiting for the final separation. So let's go back to the SpaceX coverage and see how that goes.
Hello, and welcome back to our live coverage of the Arctic Satellite Broadband mission. We are now about T plus 47 minutes and 10 seconds into today's mission, and coming up next, we're waiting for the deployment of the second ASBM satellite. Great views from up in space, and you can see ASBM-1 over on the left-hand side of your screen. Its deployment was just about 5 minutes ago.
ASBM-2, payload deploy confirmed.
There we heard from Mission Control and have great views on our screen that we have had successful deployment
That was
of
the final launch, the final separation,
Hey.
birth of 2 new satellites.
Incredible.
Congratulations.
Wow, yes.
How do you feel now?
I mean, great relief. I mean, it's the first leg of the journey and the most critical one, so incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
But now they're out there, and there's still a lot going on. So when can the engineers achieve the first kind of connection with the satellites?
Yeah, well, that's 33 minutes from now, approximately. The satellites will now be on their own. It will fly across the South Indian Ocean, and the first satellite will be acquired, I think, from a ground station in India, if I'm not mistaken. So whatever it is, it's 33 minutes from now, and then we will get the first sign of life from this newborn satellite babies.
Yeah, what a day, what a day. Yeah. So that's kind of sums up for us. Yeah. What a day, what a launch. We've witnessed an important part of a piece of Norwegian space history, actually. Yeah. So all good. Now we can start to relax again. Or maybe not.
At least the first leg of the journey is done. Yeah. We now concentrate on seeing that the satellites are healthy. Yeah. But so far, so good.
So far, so good.
Incredibly happy for what we have achieved so far.
That's good. So with that, we're signing off here from our studio in Oslo. Good luck and congratulations to Space Norway and to all space enthusiasts of the world. Good luck today. Have a nice day and good luck with your future.